Welcome to episode 6 of Medical Edibles. I'm Chef Tanya Nicole, chef and culinary nutritionist.
Is it supposed to mean something?
And today I'm going to teach you how to make gnocchi.
It's really simple when you knows how.
For this recipe, you can use concentrate flour and even hash, but today we're using Kief.
Are you crazy? What if the cops come?
Today's episode is sponsored by the upcoming podcast, Mind Your Manners. Check it out on our channel. Give us a thumbs up, like, and definitely subscribe.
Sounds awesome.
As you all know, I'm a personal chef and I teach cooking classes, and I decided to teach you all how to make gnocchi because it's my most popular class. Most people love the fact that it's so easy to make.
I guess you'll just have to watch me shows you how to do it.
And once you've mastered it, you'll wonder why you haven't been making gnocchi the whole time. You only need a few ingredients to make gnocchi.
Well, that's a plus.
The main ingredients are
Baking potatoes, flour, and eggs.
Hey!
Here we have some shredded Parmesan cheese,
More shredded than a Julian salad, man.
as well as grated Romano cheese. We have some olive oil, canola oil, kosher salt, white pepper, decarbed Kief, of course, and then some herbs and spices as you wish. Here I have basil, parsley, oregano, and rosemary. All right, let's start. The first thing I want to do is I'm just going to simply crack one egg. And of course you always want to crack it in a separate bowl in case the egg is bad or you have a shell that has fallen into the bowl. That way we can separate it. And here we have a nice clear bowl. There are no eggshells in here.
Hey!
I'm just going to throw it right here in my mini food processor. Next you want to measure out all of your dry herbs.
Herb?
So we're just going to do half a tablespoon of each herb.
Anybody here smoke herb?
If you don't have each of these herbs individually, you can always just buy Italian seasoning,
Oh!
which would incorporate all of those herbs in one. So we're just going to put these on the food processor and blend thoroughly. The egg is going to act as a binder as well as some fat and give it some nice creaminess. I'm going to sift all the dry ingredients together, but if you don't have a sifter, you can always use a fine strainer, also known as a chinois.
What are you talking about?
Okay, we're going to start by putting our sifter right over our bowl, and then we're just going to need 3/4 cups of flour. And then right in the sifter. In addition to our flour, we're going to add our Kief. We're going to do a pinch of white pepper.
Punch or pinch? Punch. Not pinch. What I say? I said pinch.
It's very, very strong. It has like a smoky, almost like a nutmeg flavor to it. If you don't like white pepper, feel free to use regular pepper. And then I'm also going to do 2 pinches of salt.
You took your first pinch like a man.
I don't really do a lot of salt in this. We're gonna add cheese later, and that's gonna be plenty of salt.
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
And the reason you're sifting, you want to get all the lumps out, make sure there's nothing clumped up together, and it makes the flour separate and gives us a nice, fine, aerated product. Okay. Now we have all our ingredients sifted, we can move on to the potatoes.
Potatoes!
We're going to start off by washing the potatoes with running water, and I'm going to use my vegetable brush here.
Don't forget to bring a towel.
So now we'll just put a little bit of vegetable oil on each potato. And that'll allow for when they're in the oven, the heat will hit that. The skin will be nice and crunchy. I'm going to put some nice kosher salt on these so that the salt pulls out a lot of that moisture. And we're going to flip them over.
Flip!
We're going to do the same thing. A little bit of oil. Some kosher salt. And then the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna just use a fork and poke some holes in the potato so that the moisture from the inside of the potato has a place to release and they don't explode inside your oven. And we're just gonna put these right on the middle rack for them to bake. You don't have to put them on a tray or any aluminum foil or anything like that. If you want to, that's perfectly fine. We've put all our dry herbs with the egg. We're just gonna make sure it's very well blended.
It gives me a headache.
That looks perfect. We'll just let it sit until we need it.
Shut up!
Here we have some beautifully baked potatoes.
So baked.
We're just gonna cut these in half, take the inside of the potato, and that's what we're gonna use to predominantly make the gnocchi. So we're gonna cut it in half, and then you're gonna take each half and use a spoon to scoop out the inside. You wanna make sure you get most of the potato. The only thing we don't want is the skin or any dried up potato that is close to the skin. These potatoes were already pre-baked prior to the starting of filming. We put them in the oven at 350 degrees for an hour. Make sure you don't add any of these pieces where the potato has dried out close to the skin, because that will affect your texture of your gnocchi, especially when you put it through the ricer. When you put it in the ricer or the food mill, it's gonna affect the consistency. It'll just get all stuck together because it's dried up. So this is what the inside of the potato should look like once you've scooped everything out. This you can actually keep, put it in a Ziploc, put it in the fridge, and then I like to use it as a little potato boat for leftovers. So you can just put cheese on in here.
Throw some cheese on it.
And then put it in the broiler, or you can put leftover.
Oh, good grief. Yes, ma'am?
Have a little bit of leftover steak.
You talking to me this whole time?
Or chili. Put some cheese right on there.
Throw some cheese on it.
Pop it underneath the broiler, and then you have a snack. So this is a ricer.
What is that?
Also known as a food mill.
What the fuck is that?
And what we're gonna do is we're gonna set this on the bowl. And I got this one on Amazon, pretty inexpensive. I think it was $20 for this and the garlic press. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the potatoes through here. It's going to press right through and almost like Play-Doh, come out the other side. Almost like the sifter did with the flour, it's gonna separate it and it's gonna allow it to become light and airy and really help us prepare it to make the gnocchi. So you don't wanna overcrowd the ricer. I just like to put a couple of pieces in and then work it through.
Taters are just about done. I'm just gonna give them one quick whisk here.
And continue to repeat until it's all gone. Make sure you don't put too much and overcrowd because it'll make it difficult for you to push it through. Working the potato through the ricer is easiest when your potato is nice and hot. So when you bake it, just take it right out of the oven and then you can start to make the gnocchi. Once you've pressed all the potatoes in, you just want to use your spoon at the end to make sure you get everything. Our Kief is in the flour, so whatever ingredient you've incorporated with, you want to make sure you get every single drop. You're going to make a well right in the middle of this potato mixture, and then we're going to pour the egg mixture and the herbs
Down the well.
right into the center, and that way it just holds it all together and doesn't go everywhere. So this is our 3/4 cups of flour with our Kief, our salt, our white pepper, and we're going to add it right into our little mound of potatoes.
You're always trying to give me potatoes. What is it with you? I just think they're neat.
Remember to get every single little grain, because that's where the infusion is. So right now you're going to use your hands as a scoop, and I'm going to work from the back of the bowl, folding over, turn the bowl, and all we're trying to do right now is incorporate our dry ingredients and our wet ingredients, which is the potato, which has a lot of moisture, and the egg, which both of those ingredients are going to help to bind this all together. I'm just letting the bowl and the folding do all the work. As you can see, I'm not really applying heavy pressure.
Pressure changes everything, pressure.
I'm just scooping from the bottom, folding to the top. And you'll see that as the potato absorbs the flour, it basically starts to kind of disappear. So all that moisture is going to be absorbed by the flour. We're going to continue to roll out the gnocchi when it's on the silk pad. And if you see here, it's basically come together in a dough. Here, I am going to apply some light pressure to make sure that it's combined well. My hands are all filled with flour, so I'm just going to rinse off my hands.
Pick up the salt. Now don't try to bluff.
This is what your gnocchi should look like right about now. And we're just gonna take it out of the bowl. We're gonna grab a little bit of flour, and I like to make a little pile on the corner of my silk pad. And then just take a little bit and spread it along the silk pad, all right? You don't need a lot, just a little bit. Put a little bit of flour on your hands. Okay, perfect. If you don't have a silk pad, you can put flour down on your tabletop or your kitchen counter or whatever it is you're using to roll out the gnocchi. When we cut the gnocchi, we want to use the back part of the knife, not the front part. Think of it as a big bowl of mashed potatoes. If you put the knife through, it's just going to smear, but this is nice and thick.
Thicker than a Snicker.
So this will actually cut through the gnocchi dough, okay? And you're always gonna put the knife through the flour, okay? So that also helps it not stick. So now we're just gonna cut the dough into 8 pieces. So I usually start by cutting it into 4. And then we're gonna cut it one more time. Separate these and put them to the side. And then again, a little bit of flour. And we're gonna start to roll this out into a log. I would say about the size or the thickness of my thumb. Use your own judgment. I usually say shouldn't be any larger than the size of the fork you're using to eat it. So you can make jumbo gnocchi or you can make petite gnocchi. This looks like it's perfect or perfect enough. What I like to do is I give it a little tap at the end.
Give it a little tappy. Tap, tap, taparoo.
I'm just gonna get a sheet pan and dust it with some flour so that once I cut the gnocchi, I can put it on there and collect it. And then I like to roll it to the edge of my mat. And then you're gonna cut each gnocchi. Keep cleaning your knife. We're gonna line these up in the same order that we cut them. And that will allow them some time to dry before we come back and we give it some texture. Okay, so we take one, roll it into a little ball, and then you're gonna start to apply some pressure. For the ends, you just give it a little tap with the knife.
Seems like everywhere I look, people are enjoying knives.
You wanna make sure you clean the knife often and pass it through the flour, because a lot of it will get stuck on your knife and then it won't allow you to cut. So you can cook them as they are right now, or you can just take your pinky, dip it in the flour, and make a little indent in each one of the gnocchi. You can also use a fork and a gnocchi board as well, and I'm going to show that to you next. And again, the reason why we're trying to add texture is so that if you're using a sauce, it can get into the little nicks and crannies of the gnocchi. If you're using a fork, you just take a piece of gnocchi. I like to lay it lengthwise. I like to softly press my thumb onto it, roll it up.
Roll them up.
Like a taco, and then downhill. Let's do that again. Take a piece of gnocchi lengthwise, lightly press, up like a taco, roll downhill. You don't want to put a lot of pressure. You just want to put some light pressure onto the fork so that the prongs create a force between the gnocchi and that pops out. If you squeeze it too much, it's not gnocchi, it's yucky. So if you're using the gnocchi board again, you're going to do the same thing. Put it lengthwise, apply some light pressure, roll it up like a taco, and roll it down the board. You can see that the grooves are a lot closer together versus the fork, but it gives you the same texture that you need. Let's do that again. So you're going to put it lengthways, apply some pressure, roll it up like a taco, and roll it down the board. You do want to make sure that you give yourself about 15 minutes from the time you cut the gnocchi to the time that you give them texture with the gnocchi board or the fork or even your finger. The reason you want to do that is just pretend like you're playing with mashed potatoes. If you leave your mashed potatoes on your plate, they kind of get that skin on the top of them. That's kind of what we want. We want it to dry out on the top or the outside of the gnocchi so that we're able to give it that texture. If not, what's going to happen is your gnocchi is just going to stick to your gnocchi board or stick to the fork, and it's not really going to roll off of it, and so the gnocchi is just going to fall apart. So you need a little bit of time for it to dry out. You can put a fan on it if you want, or even put it in the fridge for 15 minutes.
Come on, come on, come on, come on.
But the one thing you're not going to do is you're not going to make your dough and then put it in the fridge and say, oh, I'll cut them and roll them out later. You either make gnocchi right away, or you make it and you freeze it.
Must go faster.
The recipe I made is enough for 2 people if you're not going to eat anything other than the gnocchi, or definitely 4 portions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to freeze the half that I didn't give texture to, and I'm going to cook the other half that does have the texture. So this is what it looks like. These are the ones that we've already given some texture to with the gnocchi board, and then I've left these without any texture at all. I'm going to actually freeze those. So I'm just putting these on parchment paper. I'm going to slide them into a Ziploc bag, and once they've completely frozen, I can then just pick up the Ziploc bag and toss it in the back of my freezer and not have to worry about ruining the shape. Don't these Kief infused gnocchis look delicious? Yum, 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 yum.
You on drugs?
We're actually going to put these in some simmering water, and it's super easy to cook. We basically place them gently into their beautiful water bath, and then they float right up when they're ready. We have some water simmering. I'm just going to throw some kosher salt into the water.
Kosher, you know what that is?
And then we are going to drop these lightly into the water. Now, a little trick here is the closer you are to the water, the less splashback you're going to get. You don't want to put them on top of each other, but they can be closely next to each other, like nice little roommates that they are, with all the herbs and spices and the Kief. So it's got extra herbs and spices.
You think this is funny?
These will quickly cook. Probably should take no longer than 5 minutes for these to come right up. And like I said, you don't really need to watch them per se. They are going to tell you when they are done, because they're just going to float right to the top. And you can already see that some of them are starting to float. And I usually put all of them in, and then I wait until they all come to the top. If you want information on dosing, just check our description. Here we've used 2 grams of Kief. Obviously, you can use more, you can use less, depending on your own personal preference. You could also use BHO or other types of infusions. We're just gonna scoop these out. They're perfectly done. You wanna try to make sure that you get as little water as possible into your serving bowl. Don't they look delicious? And we haven't even added anything to it. So when we first pull them out, they look like they're a little bit wet, but as you see, they're steaming, and that steam will kind of dry them off a bit. If you're not using Kief and you're using infused olive oil, this would be an even easier way to infuse your gnocchi. Extra virgin olive oil will add a nice nutty flavor to this.
What's so funny?
Here's what it looks like once it's dried. Really here, it's to your liking. If you like a lot of cheese, put a lot of cheese. If you like a little bit of cheese, put a little bit of cheese. But I like a lot of cheese.
And what is this?
That's cheese.
And what is this?
That's cheese.
We're adding about a quarter of a cup of Romano cheese, quarter of a cup, and about a half a cup of shredded Parmesan. And then I'm just gonna give this a nice mix. I love cheese. This might be a little bit too much for some of you, but this is perfect.
I can ignore the cheese.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, can't do it.
And then I'm just gonna put it right in the bowl. I'm just gonna crack some fresh black pepper on top of it.
Neanche con questo bel pepe nero, eh?
I'm just gonna pop it in the broiler for a minute so that that top cheese melts really nice. Make sure your dish is oven safe. Now time to take it out of the oven. Doesn't that look delicious?
Shut up!
Infused, cheesy, herby, delicious gnocchi. And it's medicated.
Yeah, don't say nothing like that.
There you have it. That's our recipe for cheesy, herby gnocchi. Easy to make, easy to freeze, easy to share.
That's the end. I'm through.
Our episode was sponsored by the upcoming podcast, Mind Your Manners. You can find that here on Ill Mannered Films. Make sure to give us a green thumbs up, comment, share, and definitely subscribe.
That was awesome.
I'm rolling up all your rolling up all your rolling up the exotic. I'm rolling up all your rolling up all your rolling up exotic.
This is not for you. No chocolate for your doggy.